back to my channel. Bit of a windy day here in Melbourne, but it's still late winter and I'm still repotting. So this is a Dwarf Gingko that I have. It was also, I actually did some work on it last year, just wiring up some of the branches. I think I had it planted in the pot somewhere around there or there, something like that. But when I restyled it, the new angle was going to be in there. So what I'm trying to do is trying to get the tree going more of a flame shape, which is what the ginkgos tend to do. I originally had the front and I think I changed the front to be somewhere in there. You can see those two wires lined up like that, something like that, to give it that, try and give it that flame shape and give it the breadth that it needs to. So it still looks good at that, as that shape. Yeah, it looks pretty good in that shape. It's also got the widest nabari. Even though there's a graft here, it still has the widest nabari. It looks quite nice from that angle. So I'm going to have to, pretty much this is about changing, because I want to change that angle. I don't want to be putting the tree here on the benches. I mean, like that on the benches when it's not the front. I want to be keeping it down at the front. So I will need to change the front to be lining up like that. Very windy here. I'm not sure you're going to be able to hear me properly, but I'll try and speak louder. Hopefully the camera doesn't get blown off as well. But that's what we're going to do today. Repot this guy into the new position. The other thing is I've got another Gingko dwarf as well that is also needing a repot rechange. So if this video gets too long, I won't make this video. I'll do a separate one for that. So again, I've already cut the two wires holding it in. Now, because this is a dwarf, I probably wouldn't have repotted it. I think it's done 2 years ago. I repotted it 2 years ago. So let's see what the roots look like after 2 years on a dwarf Gingko. Make sure there's no other wires. It's only the one wire, isn't it? Yeah, it's one. So I really like the foliage on this Gingko. It's very small and very nice. So as a dwarf, I wouldn't have expected so much growth, but it's done alright. It's pretty good. Hang on, I'll just transfer it over there. We'll put it in the same pot anyway. I'm not going to change the pot, but it looks pretty solid. Roots, pretty good. Actually quite thick for roots, which is interesting. Maybe that's just the type of roots. But let me comb some of these out, because I might as well do a good job of combing these roots out this year, and try and get some nice nabari happening. And yeah, the roots seem very like fibrous. I don't know how to explain it other than that. Very fibrous, very lignotube, I think. I don't know what something like that. It's very different kind of roots to a trident or a pine or a juniper. It's very very figgy, very fig type, I guess. Very those kind of roots. Interesting. So I'm just going to go away and get rid of all this white. So I'm just going to keep going around, get rid of all the weeds on top as well. And let me just, I'm going to give it a good rinse as well. So let's get this tree really looking good in the new pot with the right soil, with the right roots. And let me do a good job of cleaning it out. At least it gives it the best chance. So you've seen me do this before, not much point in showing you this again, but I'll come back and show you after I wash the roots and what the roots look like. Okay, so I'll be back soon. Alright, so I have come back. Took me quite a bit of time to really get into this root base. Now I'll just want to show you, can you see those heavy cuts that I've done at the base? Now that's what happens with nursery grown material. This was a nursery grown tree, not a bonsai grown tree. So what happens is you see the big heavy roots. Now I've tried to eliminate a lot of those as much as I can, and it's sitting kind of much more firmer. I feel there's a couple more others that I'm just going to get rid of, because anything at the bottom that's really heavy is kind of irrelevant, because we don't need that anymore. So it's pretty flat as I can get it to be. So remember, nursery grown trees are very root bound. They don't really trim the roots or anything like that. So I just got to remember where the front was, and I think it was in here somewhere, in around here. So what I'm going to try and plan to do is I'm going to try and also wire some of the roots out to fan out the root base. I'll see how I go with that. But I want to get the front secured first. And there's somewhere in there. So I've already prepared the pot, put some wire on either end, and I'll show you that in a second. So you put the tree down. I know the pot's dirty, but what I've done is just put wires this way and wires this way, because I've reduced so much of the root ball. I want it really to hold it all in place quite nicely. Because we're changing the front of the tree as well. So I think it was something like I'm going to try and fan the roots as much as I can. I did make a mound in the middle again, like always. Now I wanted this heavy branch slightly to the back. Or maybe I'll bring it. So I try and hold it in place so you can see what I'm trying to say. So that is the newish front. I want to try and get this more exposed. See this bit here. So I'm going to be trying to wire. I will try and put little root hook thingies kind of thing. I'll show you what I'm trying to do later. But I'll try and hook that into a different position and let it go into that position to try and fix some of these roots. But I've just got to get the front exactly where I want it to be. Biggest issue is this branch here, but we'll just have to let that grow and see what we can do with it and make it a big flame tree eventually. So I'm going to go with something like this for now. Let's hold the tree in place. This is the hardest bit, but very important. And sometimes you want to also try and see if you can get the roots that you want into the place you want by putting this wire on. So I've wired this root that I want to spread that way, and I'm going to try and tweak it on there. That's good. I want to try and get see when you actually have a tree that you need to that you want to get out of a nursery can versus something that's been repotted every year in, year out. It's much harder work. It takes a lot longer effort, much more thinking, much more. Need more root ties to tie them all in. Everything's harder that first time around, but they get easier as time goes on, as you can imagine. It's all a bit of an operation, I guess. Slow but steady. Pretty happy with that. Tree's nice and secure. I was even able to move some of the roots around, so I don't really even probably have to use a root kind of hook, but the tree hopefully is better there. Nice and nabari. As I said, this is a branch that is a problem, but I think in time all this fills out and this one will fill out in towards the back, and it'll be a bit more of a, think about this kind of tree as a ginkgo, and they normally do that kind of look, that big flame look. So I think I'm on the right track. Given this area, I'll put it this way a little bit, just because this has got a nice big heaviness over this side, so it can kind of sit just off this side of the pot. You can probably see that just slightly this side. Yeah, let's get some soil into it, and then leave this tree alone for a couple of years pretty much. I'm not going to repot this tree anytime soon. doesn't need to be. I think it's more than capable to stay in this pot for a number of years, especially all the root work we've just done. We've really done the heavy work right now, and that should solve a lot of the root problems we had with the big heavy roots that we're all kind of with. So let's get some work done with the chopstick. Now I do have another Gingko, but I'll do a separate video because this video is getting a bit too long anyway. So I'll show you that one as well. But there you go. So it's important when you go to tree, a nursery stock tree, I guess. Did you see the roots, how they're really heavy in the middle? Get the work done. I could have done it earlier, but I reduced this tree slowly because it was a dwarf, and I wanted to see how it responded as bonsai or in bonsai culture. You know, with bonsai culture, and it seems to have done really well. So roots-wise, there was lots of roots. It does form a slightly different root base than the roots that I'm used to. Like tridents and stuff, but it's felt like almost like a fig type of root system. It's a bit more fibrous, but I don't have figs. But I remember what they used to look like when I did have them. So anyway, I'm just going to top that up with a bit more soil, and that's pretty much done. Now it's in the front. This is the front of the tree, so I can look at it from the front every time when I want to work on it. And that's the reason I repotted this tree pretty much. Also to have a good look at it after 2 years in a bonsai pot. So I'm happy with the results. It's good now to leave for a couple of years. I'll just water this in nicely, and then let it sit on the benches for a while, and hopefully I'll come back and show you the nice healthy foliage on it when spring comes, and the beautiful Gingko, miniature Gingko leaves on this one, because it's a miniature dwarf. Alright guys, that's it for me. I'll come back with another video on Gingko number 2, which I think is probably a more superior tree to this one. But we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.